Welcome back, or welcome to HarlanSweete, a Life and Lorcana podcast. I'm Alphos, and we are joined by HarlanSweete. Say hello.
Hello, guys.
So this is something we've been thinking about for a long, long time, and by a long, long time, I mean since EU Continentals ended a few days ago. Basically, we want to, I mean, talk about competitive Lorcana and just really life because we've become good mates over the past year of knowing each other through the competitive scene. Initially, just known for the Sapphire Steel deck, I've expanded into being more of a flex competitive player and showcasing various decks on my YouTube, whereas HarlanSweete is still working on terrible decks such as Sapphire Steel in the current meta, and somehow, with a really odd version of it, qualified for EU Continentals, which, as you can guess, is going to be our first topic. But before
Yeah.
that, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I didn't know I was going to get such a heavy-handed introduction there. I thought you were going to say, oh, one of the best Sapphire Steel players, but no, okay, that's
No, 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 you
fine.
are one of the best Sapphire and Steel
But
players.
I just should be.
You
I
shouldn't be
want
playing it.
I want everyone to know that after like the end of Continentals, when I came out to talk to you, you went, yeah, it was a really good run and you really proved yourself, but I really think you need to just try some more colors, man. It was this like
Yeah.
really serious and nice like emotional moment where it was like you really felt for me.
Yeah, it's
So I
just
might do
like
it
a
sometime.
parent that thinks you're choosing the wrong degree for university.
Yeah,
I
you're
just
really
really think you
talented.
shouldn't go for the liberal arts degree. I think
Yeah,
STEM might be a better choice for you. You're quite
it,
smart, Adam.
yeah, it was like yeah, it was like you're really smart, but do you really want to go to clown college? It was kind of like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I still like a Sapphire Steel enjoyer. I'm sort of like I play a lot of TCGs, and it's always the comfort picks I think sometimes get you through them. Like I could swap to green purple right now. I think that's like the strongest deck in set six, but I
hmm
don't think I'd know how to play those bad matchups and those mirrors as well. So I tend to
I
just
mean,
find a
what?
deck and stick with it.
Yeah, we'll definitely get to that later in talking about the meta because I think a lot of people might look at the results of the past weekend and say, hey, maybe red, purple, green, purple, that's the best deck in the meta. But as we
Mm.
found in every Lorcana meta before, it's always very secular. So to stay one step ahead, you probably have to think what decks are people going to be moving to, what decks do you play to counter that, and that
Mm.
changes depends on the event you're going to, right? So I think typically it's quite easy to counter a DLC meta because I mean, I guess we're going into it now. Why not? Let's change the order of the topics. Typically, it's quite easy to counter a DLC meta because most people just switch to the cards that won the. Sorry, switch to the deck that won the previous DLC, regardless of looking at stats like conversion rates, which a lot of top players do to try and see the objective metrics. However, in this case, with NA Continentals coming up and shortly after Worlds, the caliber of player is much higher, so you can expect them to put a lot more thought into the process of predicting the meta and choosing a deck. I like to think that I'm pretty good at predicting metas. I don't think I've gotten one wrong yet so far. I think it's my strongest skill. And what I would say for this meta is that getting one step ahead and predicting that people are predicting the meta is maybe you can even say that, look, people are going to switch to amber steel and green steel in order to counter the red purple green purple meta, right? Because they want more of those control decks to counter those tempo mid range value decks, which maybe makes red blue a good pick again
Mm.
to counter the counter that people are bringing. So I think having all these levels of depth of strategy is going to make it so much harder to make a strong deck selection going into NA Continentals.
Yeah, I think no, you hit it right on the head with like TCG metas, and especially when the card pool gets a bit bigger, they're very sort of cannibalistic. They eat into each other. So for like the list I run, and like I've mentioned a few times, I just mentioned it quickly here. Is like I worked on it with a friend. It's his list, so I haven't made it public, but you saw on the stream
Mm.
what I played. So like yeah, there's some bits there. But a lot of what people noticed, and it wasn't just me. Like Reese, like a friend of ours who made top of the Swiss in EU Continentals like used Mukduk Manor, and it was just a lot of people noticed that location hate wasn't really big right now. Like RP had pretty much dropped Queen's Castle, so like why did you need to run it? Everyone feared the crab, but of course even a fox crab doesn't clear a Mukduk Manor, so there was like a
Mm.
lot of room for you to just cheese some games, especially against Ruby Sapphire, who had like dropped Hideaway and cards like that because they just thought locations aren't relevant. I don't need those cards in my deck. They're dead cards. But like we
Dimes
were
aren't as relevant if you're not playing red blue mirrors all
yeah,
day.
So like a lot of people put those cards in there, but as you say, the meta eats on itself. Now that we saw the performance of those decks and like using locations and using things that are hideaway targets, people will go and put them in their decks now, and people will put the answers in their decks as well. And we go on this circle where you want to find like the next thing that's above that, like what can jump in front of that and go, oh wait, no one's looking at this now. I can try and cheese some wins with that. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, going further into the deck you played, I would obviously you can't talk about the full 60, but you were the only one to
Yeah.
bring a deck like that into the meta, a deck pretty much no one had seen at any tournament previously. Maybe the next spiciest deck was RP Burn, which we had seen debuted at the Seattle tournament in Set 5. What can you tell us about the deck that is already public from your featured stream?
Yeah, I mean, like, just looking at the stream, like, I'll just say the one card like that people saw on the stream was Alice, which is pretty nice. And I'll admit it's like anyone who's bringing a deck that they think's spicy. Maybe it's not like a top meta deck, especially like the one I brought. You get some real surprise factors. Like your opponent has no idea what you're doing every turn. And with like TCGs, there's a lot of oh, I'm gonna play this card because I know they play that card next turn. But
Hmm.
if they don't know what you're playing next turn, and you've got confidence that that card you are going to play is good, that can really get you some wins, especially when you're just trying to get through the Swiss rounds and there's like closed deck lists and everything like that. But yeah, it's just I think right now in Lorcana it's better to be the proactive player than the reactive player.
Hmm.
Mainly because the reactive answers besides Big Sisu aren't particularly that good. Like if you brawl a genie, I don't feel like that's a great play. You know, I mean, you've answered
Yeah,
it,
because
but
you're trading sort of half value because that genie has already replaced itself, so it's only cost them the opponent the ink and a turn of play, whereas you're
yeah,
maybe costing yourself a whole turn of play, the ink and the card just to deal with the genie, which
exactly, and they
really
get
only
one.
works in red blue, which is aiming. Which red blue is okay going negative in the early game. It's
Mm,
great if it's going even in the early game because the moment they scale into the late game, they're able to drop much higher value cards. But
yeah.
most decks can't afford to waste a turn of tempo. Like a red purple deck playing a brawl against a genie isn't as good as a red blue deck playing a brawl against a genie because of this idea of tempo.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like the genie's such a powerful card, and everyone has to think about it going to these events. And as you say, the red answer is Brawl, and that didn't feel bad because they go up one card because they get a card draw from the genie, and then you spend 3 ink, and you can only really be Ruby Sapphire to afford it because maybe you do it on a 5 ink turn, and then the other thing you do
Mm.
like Sail, and it's like that wasn't that bad a turn, and I'm just stalling till I get to my Sisus anyway. But like if you sing Zeus or even play Zeus, it's like this is a 4 cost uninkable song I have to include in my deck if genies come up. It just feels rough. So I think it's better to be the proactive player right now and basically make them have the answers rather than you need the answers. And it's very hard to swing that on the draw, but you just got to do it sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, we also have that whole idea of two game format versus best of three format with being the proactive player. In two game format, I think it's maybe a little bit better for the aggro player as you're guaranteed to have one on the play, guaranteed on the draw. And I
Mm.
think if you're a player who thinks you're a strong player, you'd rather have that than best of three, where if you roll dice and you end up on the draw, you could end up having two losing games on the draw and one winning game on the play, which ends up in a complete loss. Whereas a 1-1 in two game format is a bit better of an outcome than that. Obviously, you can always dice roll high and have two games on the play that ends up winning you the set. But I think the stronger a player you are, the less willing you are to allow that variance because you want to maximize your chances of beating other players.
Yeah, I mean, like we were chatting before we recorded, and it seems like every Lorcana player gets into a massive chat about 2 game format, and then
Yeah.
you said, "Hold on, wait, we haven't clicked record yet." So we thought we'd talk about it now, and I think that was a good call. And yeah, I've got loads of opinions on it. I think my opinion as well, like, I still play Lorcana for fun. Like, I compete and I try my best, but I work full time and everything like that. So like, when I go to these events, like I just generally don't enjoy the format of 2 game format. Like I'm just not having a fun experience. Like I still get to play Lorcana, I love that. And another thing is like I play Blue Steel, which is a deck that it has specific mulligans for specific matchups. And like even the one I played in the LCQ, so I went 3 2-0s and 2 2-1s, and there's basically a card Twin Fire in the deck that is amazing into pretty much most of the field. it is terrible into ROGUE Sapphire. So you can afford yourself that game one loss, but then you know how to mulligan for the other two games. Rather than in 2-game format, you can lose that first game and then just get a split, and then that's kind of almost the same as, not the same as a loss, but you really wanted to get a 2-0, but you didn't have that mulligan knowledge to be able to get that 2-0 or that win of the set, however it is. And just, yeah, I just generally don't want to be one of them people who sit here complaining about set best 2-game format, but I seem to be one of them.
I mean, I'm one of the only people that isn't complaining about. I mean, I still complain about 2-game format. I critique it, but I think it's overall a better format, which 80%, 90% of the people in the community probably disagree with me. At least a lot of these ongoing tournament players. What I would say about that specifically is that's a very good critique, and it's a critique I have of it too. My suggestion to fix that for the 2025 format, which, again, another topic planned for later, but is to have announced ink combos so that the information disparity between the first and second game is a little bit mitigated, because you won't know their full deck, but if they at least have to announce their ink pairing, it gives you an idea of what to mulligan, so that the difference between a knowledgeable mulligan and a blind mulligan is less so. Because often when practicing, we'll usually practice in an open mulligan knowing the opponent's deck, depending on the format, but at least for best of 3, because in best of 3, 2 games out of 3 you know the opponent's deck, as you said, but in 2-game format, half of the games you don't know the opponent's deck. I think that opens yourself up to variance, and the other argument is there's more room for surprise factor for niche decks, but I think niche decks still have that surprise factor when ink combos are announced, and there's maybe even more room for bluffery and trickery, where if you play a really well-known ink color, but with a really unconventional deck choice within that ink color, which could force your opponent to ink in the completely wrong, mulligan in the completely wrong direction. So I think overall it could mitigate variance in some areas while still allowing for that, those players who enjoy playing rogue picks and enjoy trying to win in the deck builder, as Specky would say, for these high-level tournaments.
I think that's a really good point, actually. That's actually changed my mind, because in a sense, when we play the 2-game format, we kind of play a BO1. We just play the 2 BO1s back-to-back against each other. And it's a really good point, because the opponent I had in round 4 was on Zan's podcast and said he'd read the name on Melee and then said, I know this is a Sapphire Steel player, and mulliganed for that. But of course, when he played against my build, it was not at all, the ramp Sapphire Steel. He was probably expecting a wheel. He was expecting all these things, wasn't he? And you could even do that of like winning in the deck builder, as you just said, of hide behind the common deck for that color pairing, and then bring something that's completely different. It's completely placed differently. It's maybe they're expecting high end and it's all low to the ground, and just like you could get your wins through that as well. Generally, if they just showed color pairings, I'd be a lot more happier, because I would just confidently mulligan, and especially in a game where they're so gracious on the mulligan, but it's also like, what do I want to send this card back, this tech, for this one matchup or not? Oh, I send it back. I'm going to get a 1/1 now. And you've got cards like
shout
Diablo
out to the Enchanted Tour in Vienna that me, Kawa, and the Bologna winner Ellie all went to. Is that before the official DLC format was announced, their best of 3 tournament for Lorcana was with inks announced before the match, which gave me the idea. And also briefly in the simulator, which we shall not name, there was that feature when queuing games that you would see the ink color before pairing.
Oh, wow. Oh, did they just have to like say it to your opponent when you sit down?
Yeah, you just said it to your opponent. And you just...
Oh, cool.
I mean, if they lied, you call a judge, right?
Did anybody lie?
No, not as far as I know.
No, I wouldn't imagine so. No, I think so, because they give you a gracious mulligan, and then like if you saw green, you could be like, well, maybe I'll hide songs, or maybe I'll keep a Diablo answer. But if you don't know, but your deck has those things in it, and you just haven't mulliganed for them, or sorry, altered. I've got to use the word altered. Or is
altered,
yeah.
Crafted I think that was the correct one I was told about by Ravensburger people, was to alter your hand.
If you haven't like got the knowledge to even know what you're altering for, it's kind of like this isn't that great. The only thing that would benefit is a ramp deck that has like one line. But then again, I guess some of the decks do just have one line. They want to do one thing. But I definitely think there's improvements on it. And also a best of 2 or 2-game format. Like I've heard from judges and casters saying they much prefer it. So like I'm not going to say it's all bad. Like there's loads of positives to it as well. I don't want to sit here complaining about it all day. Just play the game.
I mean, main positives, there's no incentive to play for time, and you actually finish your matches. So that's a pretty good improvement. and there's no dice roll advantage with the play draw advantage. So
Yeah.
I think that's a big upgrade. The other negative, I'll say though, is the bonus point. I think the bonus point is, so I think most people's problems with two-game format right now is how it makes them feel emotionally. I think the objectiveness of two-game format is pretty good. We objectively see that there's less games which are affected by an out-of-game advantage, such as a dice roll, and we're seeing less timeouts, and we're seeing more time saved in tournaments. But the emotional disadvantage, the emotional feeling here is that getting a 1-1 just doesn't feel good, and an 0-2 feels even worse. I mean, one upside is 2-0s feel even better than a win in free game, best of three does. But if we just took away that bonus point, yes, it would lead to more consistent bubbles, which means you have to rely more on tiebreakers. I think that's a subjective thing, whether you hate missing out based on tiebreakers more than you hate missing out on other things. I think the other thing is the collusion. This can be fixed with judging, but things like people dice rolling to decide a 2-0 or playing a third game, I think that's something we have to fix as a community, and in the judging program, just from community up, we need to say, hey, that's not okay, and call people out next to us when they're doing it. Like, don't be afraid to call the judge or someone next to you on a different table, because overall they are hurting other players. For example, a friend, Moyen, missed out on 65th in Birmingham with the amount of people, and you can see this in the stats of tournaments, of like if you're just watching the melee score, and when people submit a game, if they submit it like 5 minutes in, you can tell that was a game that was decided by like a best of one or decided early. So obviously, Ravensburger do have access to this information, but I'm losing my point here. But obviously, yeah, so with that point inflation, it means you may say, hey, at least I want my opponent to have a chance to make it into cut, but you're thereby saying, screw the third guy I haven't met that would have made it into cut if it wasn't for this artificial point inflation. Because in reality, the only points you deserve are the points you won from playing the game, right? So I think that's the sort of ethical problem we have with two-game format right now.
Yeah, it's that unique point I haven't really seen in other TCG tournaments where it's like you both know if you drew 1-1, neither of you makes it. So, it creates this, like you say, collusion, and then it gets awkward, and then it's not right because you haven't actually played that last round. Yeah, I think I don't really know how you police that too hard, but I guess it would be the judges taking a stricter position on it.
Mm.
But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, best of three would knock that out, but then best of three would have a lot of time issues. I play quite fast. I basically never go to time. That's probably wrong. I probably use my time a bit more useful, but there's a lot of decks that like it's guaranteed you go to time, and that would sort of punish people for choosing those decks. Like if you brought
Which I
ROGUE
think is a
Sapphire.
situation you absolutely want to avoid, because just pushing decks out of a meta just because they're not played quick enough, I think. I mean, it hurts new players who are still learning the deck. You could argue they shouldn't be at a tournament, but I would argue accessibility is more important than your ideas of gatekeeping. But yeah, I think it would be a real shame if a consideration of the game is something that's outside of the game, right? When it comes to structuring a tournament and building a format and building a system, I think you can have different ideas on how to achieve it, but at the end goal is competitive integrity and trying to have it be the most fun, competitive, fair experience possible.
Which I'll admit, in the actual EU Continentals, like they had a little meeting beforehand, and the judges did step their game up a little bit, but they did have a smaller room to watch over. I think if anyone wanted to cheat, it would be quite hard to cheat really in that environment, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'll say for my LCQ run, because I was in the guest area thanks to Harlan plus wanting me, so I got to see how great the actual main event of Continentals was run, while also seeing it from a spectator perspective in the main hall. I mean, the production was amazing. Our casters are amazing as always. Being able to see all four language casters have their own booths was really quite special, because normally it's just the English and then the home country language. And yeah, it was really cool to see the peak of what Lorcana has become thus far, and it'll be amazing to see what it becomes in Worlds. But there were a couple things that, soured aspects of my weekend. and that was just how the LCQ was run. I think there were a lot of issues with it. First off, before we even found out about it, the fact that key information was only released 4 weeks before, that's one big issue, a consistent issue throughout events this year, which I think is just a growing pain because Lorcana didn't expect to be so big so fast, so hopefully shouldn't be an issue next year. But some things that I think need to be addressed and aren't necessarily just a growing pain is stuff like how disorganized the table system was. You know, people were showing up to wrong tables, being poor Zan missed out on a round because of that, because of how convoluted the system was. It wasn't just, you know, numbered 1 through, what was it, like 200 or something, 200
I
and
thought I
something.
got my table wrong many times because it was like
Yeah,
105, but that was the one meant the amber section, table 5.
but
Because
there's
the
2
first
amber sections.
I was because the first round I was running
Or
around
something,
like they
yeah.
stop at like 90. There's no table 105. I can't find it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I mean, I'm not sure why it wasn't easy to just print out or use previous 3-digit
Mm,
tables. Uh, the cynic of me goes, they really wanted to prioritize making side events easier to navigate, which made the main pods easier to navigate. Every round, you're moving which section of the hall you're going to. Again, this wouldn't have been an issue if you just had 3-digit ones, but because of the convoluted color system, you'd have to ask a judge each time to try and find out where you were, and they never had this information visually displayed anywhere. They didn't have it in Melee, they didn't have it in an email, they only had it on people talking over a very staticky speaker explaining it
yeah.
to you at the start of a round, where you could probably barely hear it if people were talking over it. And there
Mm,
were also the issue of, even once you had found your table and you had confirmed it with a judge, there are a few cases I'd heard about where even the judges weren't properly informed or aware of the system and ended up confirming that people were at the right table, and then 30 minutes later, opponent doesn't show up. They're thinking, hey, I get a free win. No, they were at the wrong table and they got DQ'd.
mm. Yeah.
So
I
you could say, like, hey, maybe it's their fault. They should have checked the Melee name. In this case, where they have no opponent opposite and the judge confirms them, there's literally zero fault on their part. But I just think all of these things can be avoided. You shouldn't rely on tired, dehydrated, probably because there wasn't any vendors, tournament players to be able to make these decisions. But the format and the system and the organization should be streamlined enough that it's an easy process for everyone, because it's, I don't know, it's just I think the basics. And at
mm.
every other tournament it's been fine, but at the LCQ specifically, it was a mess, to be honest.
Yeah, I'll admit, whenever I sat down at my table, I'd like hold my phone up and just read then, like make sure they, and then bless them, sometimes you get an opponent who wasn't, like English wasn't their first language, and you're almost interrogating them as soon as you sat down saying, is this your name? And then of course they'd tell you their actual name rather than the Melee name, and it
Yeah.
was a bit scary, but yeah, I did have some problems there. I think I was running off quite excitement that the deck was actually working after each round, but yeah, to find the tables was pretty hard. They did like a little short break at one point because no, I think it was before it started. They delayed it
Hmm.
because the AM slot still had people playing, and they wanted them to have a chance to actually meet their PM slot if they didn't make it. And that got a bit tricky because I believe like the first round, a lot of people just didn't turn up to their tables. And then they were like, no, no, they can't get a game lost. They can still play. We informed them wrong because the email that you got said it started
Yes,
at
half an
3.
hour difference. Yeah.
Yeah, the email started at 3, so like people had gone out to do whatever, just walk around, get some fresh air, whatever you want to do, and then they'd come back at like um whatever time, and it was all different, and it just wasn't amazing for that, but I think it was fine. The actual like EU event, when I did the first round stream, and I walked up and I had my opponent with me, and the first thing he said to me was, "Are you famous?" And I and I went, "No, no, I don't." I said, "I do a little YouTube. I don't really know." Bless him, he was really nice and really great as well. But we like got to see the stage, and it was like, wow. It was like, yeah, because I remember seeing the one in Seattle, and it was like this room behind the main stage,
Hmm.
with like it looked like something you'd sit up in like a school hall or something like that. Like, and then I can remember the audio quality because I watched that stream back wasn't amazing, but like this was exactly what I expect. Like this was really well done, and I was the first round in, and like no one came into the spectating bit yet. But then they slowly filled in, and it was like I got to look to the left, and the whole room was just filled with people watching you play Lorcana, and it was like,
And I
oh,
was
it's just
snapping pictures of you on the big
you.
screen for your
You
dating
were, man.
profiles
Yeah,
later.
I needed them for the profile pictures later. Yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, it was just really nice. Like it was, I got to see it. I was like, wow, it's just amazing. Like we got to be part of this, like the first year. And the one issue I wanted to say there about the EU thing was they had like if you qualified, it was really amazing because they gave you like free food and drinks, and they moved the food and drinks table to a different table, and then they just took it away. And it was like really confusing, and like everyone was just like, "Why have you just taken it away?" And they went, "Oh no, we're getting it ready for
So
dinner
you had like two or
or
three
lunch."
rounds where you just don't have any water.
I,
Just...
it, yeah, it was like I didn't eat anything for the first because you don't really eat at these events. Like you just
No.
you don't want to get full up, and you're probably too nervous
Which we
anyway.
don't recommend. Please take care of your body, but
Oh
I mean,
yeah,
I
no,
don't eat at these events. I can't eat at these events. I like pretty much, I carb load the night before, maybe have a snack in the morning, maybe have a tiny snack at lunch, and then I'll just have a massive meal once the tournament's over. Just drinking lots of water throughout the day.
yeah, like I'll usually have like little snacks of like sweets and crisps, like which isn't great for you, but it's like in that event, and then afterwards you go out with your mates and you have like a big meal. So like it
Yeah.
kind of works out, doesn't it? But like in this event, it was like a full continental like breakfast. There was just loads of different pastries and stuff, and then they just took it away, and then they did the lunch, and I shouldn't have eaten as much as I did. But I was like, it's a fully cooked buffet. I probably should eat something.
Well, for
But
me,
yeah.
it was ever since that Poznan tournament we did at the start of the year, where I was
Oh
4-0
wow.
going into the lunch break, and then we had a big burger on the lunch break. Got back, felt tired, felt sleepy, made tons of
Oh yeah.
mistakes, and then ended up missing top cut. And I was like, right, I'm never doing that again.
That that was crazy because we both like paired into each other, didn't we? And we were like,
Yeah,
oh, it's the blue steel mirror. I'd already done a blue steel mirror that day, and I was like, I don't really like doing these, and we're probably 1-1, so we just split and went and
yeah,
got
we both
like,
only needed one more to make it into top cut, so we're like, why not?
yeah.
Then
Um,
both ended up missing, right?
yeah, that was sad, but I was very close. I think I needed to win that last game, and it went to a draw. So apparently I do play to time.
Yeah,
But yeah, yeah,
liar, liar,
yeah.
liar,
I know.
pants on fire, mate.
I remember. I think I remember that game. I just didn't find any ramps, so the game went on forever. But yeah. No, it's mad to think how long I've known you now. Then as well. I think we first met in London for an event.
Yeah, so it would have been
Yeah.
like 10 months.
Yeah. I mean, how old is Lorcana now?
Well, oh well, we met at the start of set two. When was the start of set two?
Oh yeah. Uh,
Oh wait, maybe we met. Maybe it's been 1 year.
maybe it has been a year. Maybe this is our year
Yeah.
anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it is. I don't know. I always forget how old Lorcana is. I think because like I got so busy with it. I just feel like it's been around for ages, but it's like a year and a bit, isn't it?
Yeah, year and a bit, year and a few
Yeah.
months. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, good
Hmm.
times. Great first season. Yeah. I
Really
mean,
great.
yeah.
Yeah.
So to wrap it up, right? I mean, I actually probably have more complaints about the LCQ specifically, but I don't want to turn it into just pure negativity when overall it was a very positive, fun event for me. So I'm going to skip past that. But yeah, I really wanted to point it out to just be like, hey, I think something needs to change. Like that was an unacceptable event for the amount of money people are spending to fly out here, and just for the format specifically. I really want to touch on how terrible it is if you are a casual Lorcana player, you fly out here for your first big event ever, which many of the people I played against, it was their first big event ever. You
Oh
play
wow.
one round, you get knocked out, and then what do you do for the rest of the weekend? If you're like me and you believe you can win, you've planned to be here from Friday till Monday, which is actually really funny because you didn't believe you could win. You planned to be here from Friday till Friday evening or Saturday morning, and then you ended up qualifying, so you had to extend your stay. But if you lose round one, what are you doing for the rest of the weekend? Like, sure, you can go to the parks, but you've come here to play Lorcana. You've come here to compete. You want to play, like, playing one round of Lorcana if you only get one slot sucks. Which, one other thing I want to complain about, actually, final one, is the two-slot system. They effectively halved the amount of players that got a chance to compete for Continentals qualification by letting people buy both AM and PM slots, and they only announced it a few hours before, specifically on a Twitter account, which most people didn't see. So I think the communication has been awful, and the organisation of the LCQ has been appalling. But the rest of the event has been amazing. It's been really good fun. This stuff needs to get sorted out before the next season.
Say how you feel, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was straight from the heart. Yeah,
Like, because I
I
really love these events, and I really care about accessibility to the game and the enjoyment of the competitive scene, because I don't want it to turn into this niche thing it has been in other card games where only people who have been doing it for years can understand it and can
yeah,
enjoy it. I want as many people as possible to participate and enjoy it.
like I heard how you have to qualify for like the Magic equivalent of like these regionals, and it's basically like trying to do this. And I'm probably getting this wrong for anyone who watches and plays Magic, but I have a friend who plays it, and it's like you basically have to qualify at a store champs equivalent tournament, which lets you go to another event, which lets you go to like a bigger event, and it's just I just kind of prefer that we have this
Mm,
way that I've always had it with Pokemon, where it's just you buy a ticket and you try your luck. You know, you could be that up and coming star that like no one's ever seen before, and you just take everyone by storm. Compared to just it's gatekeeped by everyone who's already good anyway. I remember like cause, like you say, I was on the Friday. I had a way back that night because I was like, I'm probably gonna lose round one and just go
yeah.
home, but like I can do a YouTube video about how I at least turned up. And then by round three, I think there was like a bracket, wasn't there? It was like every
Mm,
round you
top
won, you got
eight.
like a
Yeah.
better like knockout prizing. And someone was
Mm,
like by round three, and then they told me I had to pick them up tomorrow. So I was trying to figure out if it was worth staying one night to pick up the promos to sell them. And then like I was like, I'll just go do my round four quickly. Came out, and then I was like, oh, I might actually make this. And then like round five was done, and I was like, I've got to find a place to sleep tonight, which was all right. But I heard, yeah, if you got knocked out, you were like basically put straight into a side event that wasn't. I mean, it wasn't qualifying for the thing,
no.
but it wasn't the. It was still competitive Lorcana, I believe. Like it was not some
Wow.
fun of it. Yeah. Okay.
Competitive. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I feel like that'd be such like a slap in the face to me if I'd come to compete. I'd played one round and be like, "Well, here's a locals with people you haven't met before, right?" Like that's not why I've flown out here. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, I gotta say, like, I always enjoy the community. I enjoy going to the parks. I enjoy hanging out. But those are things I only really get because I'm well established in the scene. Like, I think if I wasn't plus oneed by you to enter into the Continentals area, I feel like I would have missed out on, talking to other competitors that I've known and met at other top cuts, which was a big part of the fun of Saturday for me. Obviously, getting the the promo prizes were nice because it helped. I mean, I don't know how on brand it is to talk about selling these cards, but for me personally, it helped justify coming out here and the cost of the hotel and the cost of the flight. Because I didn't end up finding anyone to split it with because Harlan initially thought they weren't going to be staying, and then ended
No,
up staying
just
anyway.
just
Yeah,
way too excited, and there was literally anyone next to me, and then I was like, I don't
yeah,
know, barely breathing, like
yeah,
of
yeah.
excitement. But yeah, no, I know what you mean. I try and look at it as like if you just went to this event with like your missus or like your mate, and it's like, yeah, if you take away the thing of, because I reckon if I didn't qualify, I probably could have asked for a plus one as well.
Mm.
And I'm very fortunate I'm in a position I can do that.
But if
But
you came
yeah,
here and you're on your own, this is your first event, you don't know anyone in the
yeah,
community. Like that's got to be, I mean, a pretty bad experience. Like maybe you can roll the dice and meet some nice people who take you in, which I'd like to think with our community is pretty likely.
mm,
But most of the fun comes from competing. Meeting with your
yeah.
friends is really nice, but let's be honest, right? We wouldn't spend all this money just to come on the holiday to meet other people in the Lorcana community. We come because we have the dream of making it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've said those same aspects about like when we did like Seattle or any of these regionals because I don't particularly enjoy best of two. I still get to play Lorcana, so that's fine. But like it's mainly because I get to see a lot of people I enjoy being around. I get to like see everyone. But yeah, if you
Mm.
went there and you generally it was a one game knockout and you didn't really bring any friends or anything like that, which of course you're welcome to come. Like if you really want to get into the scene, just start playing. But yeah, you get
Mm.
knocked out round one. Your hotel's booked for the night. What do you do? Go play the side events or whatever. And the no vendors was strange because I had some cards I wanted to put in going from day one to day two, and I was like, they were kind of off-brand cards that no one really was playing, so like no one would have any spares. And it was like there was no vendors, which could
Mm.
I've tried to run it back. I assume maybe it was last minute or they didn't want vendors on the
Oh, there's venue
Disneyland.
space, maybe.
Yeah, but there was probably a very valid reason, but it was kind of like I don't know, maybe people would have started foiling, because like you can sit there and foil out your deck as well and
Well, I
stuff
think
like
again
that.
it comes back down to communication. Every single event so far, there's been vendors. The expectation is to be there to be vendors, but
Yeah.
as far as I'm aware, there was no communication. But would be no vendors, especially as on the floor plan there were vendors on the floor plan.
Oh,
So
was there?
yeah, apparently I was told this by David because he had expected to be able to buy cards to build his deck, and then had to last minute scramble 20 minutes before the morning LCQ.
Oh wow, yeah, because it was a great story when I did Birmingham and a lot of Italian players came over. And then they said a couple of their friends came over and just bought like hyper aggro decks that day,
And then
like
made
from
it
the
to top
vendors,
32, right?
and just like started playing. I can't remember how. I don't know if they did that well, but I just thought it was great that you
Or
could
top
do that.
64 maybe, yeah.
Yeah,
Someone did really well. They picked up like a $60 hyper aggro deck and did
it,
really, really well.
it
Like
might
got to
have been
let
one
it
of
go or
them.
made it day two. Yeah, that's
It
what I
must have
heard
been one
about.
of them then, because yeah, I just thought that was like, oh, that's really great that you can do that. Like, you could literally even turn up with just money in your pocket and no deck, and
Mm.
then make it that day. But at this event, you couldn't. I don't know if they didn't expect it to feel like other events because it was the last chance qualifiers, but it was also supposed to be the biggest event of the year for Europe.
Yeah,
So
it
yeah,
should have felt like the grandest event ever, and with the production quality, it did on Saturday and Sunday. But
mm,
specifically on the Friday, it felt like an afterthought. Like, how do we
yeah,
get people to come? And let's just squeeze in as many as we can, you know? Like, it felt a bit rough. But what was the positive I was going to say? The positive of the LCQ is I'm glad there was an LCQ because with the finalist of the Continentals in day two, the fact that we have the rags to riches story of a guy like you showing up for the PM LCQ hasn't top cut any DLCs before, makes it in, and then goes all the way to a win is absolutely insane. Like that's a beautiful story, and I think really good for the narrative of competitive Lorcana and getting people excited for it. And that's what I keep saying. Like the dream of making it and the aspiration of the path to pro. You know, you have it in League of Legends. You're like, maybe if I rank up, I can make it on a team and I can become one of these paid players. The fact that we can have that in Lorcana and have it be so accessible, I think is really, really important.
yeah. No, I think I don't know. I want to be called a rags to riches story, but I'll take that.
Yeah, that's true. No, but yeah, you know,
Yeah,
the
like
idea of like the hero's journey, you know, like
yeah, I
starting
think
out
you only
small.
lose when you stop playing, really. So like,
Yeah.
yeah, you might have just had a bad year at DLCs, and like, you should always analyze why that's happened. Like, maybe it's because you bring Sapphire Steel to every single one of them. That could be why. But like, you just analyze them and have a good run, and then like, so you're only really gonna lose when you stop playing the game. So like, keep giving it your all. And I think it's even better to look at Lorcana deck lists, who's like one of my friends, and um, like he went on from that to go to
So are
day
you
two
are
as
you
well.
calling one of your friends a rags to riches story now
I no,
by
I know. I'm
comparing him
saying
to
he's
yourself?
whatever you want to classify, whatever you want to
Hey, look,
classify
I
as.
mean, we've
He
Kiwi and a British person on a podcast. We're gonna have a bit of banter.
yeah, yeah. Like however you want to classify it with him, like
Yeah.
he does the same as me. Like I think he's a very good player, and he's proven himself in other areas, like the simulator we don't talk about.
Yeah, the
And
top
like
grinder of the thing that shall not be named.
yeah, yeah, at loads of
Yeah.
places like that. Does really well. I think locally he does really well as and but just hadn't topped the DLC, and he went on to day two that event, which just he got to top 16 and then sadly missed out on the next game, which would have got him his Worlds invite. So
Yeah.
it's just like, yeah, there's a loads of good players. Sometimes they're hidden away for whatever reasons, just didn't turn up to enough events or like just didn't turn up to the DLCs and didn't
Sometimes
give
it's
enough
just
performance.
variance, and you just have to like find your shot, you know.
Yeah, it's that was really amazing and awesome for him as well. I know I'm really proud of him and he's really happy with that result. So yeah, like you say, you could have a really bad run, but it was that feeling of that one chance, that one last chance, because I was talking of him and Artabax as well, who both also won their LCQs,
Mm.
and it was that all three of us had quite a rough go at the DLCs, and like you get that sort of imposter syndrome thing. It's like I do
Yeah,
a
I get
YouTube
you.
channel and I tell people how to play the game. Should I really be doing this? And then,
I
yeah,
had strong imposter syndrome right up until Birmingham, and I mean and luckily I don't think it came back from not doing as well as I wanted in the LCQs, just because I was
mm,
really happy with my play and the amount of practice I put in. But I think I mean, personally, I'd almost quit the game. I just didn't think I had enough money to justify it, and I almost couldn't afford to go to Birmingham. But then being able to barely make it to Birmingham, having my friend lend me all 60 cards so that I'm able to compete, and then going all the way,
Yeah.
once you get that moment, it's hard to stop. You really want to just keep competing and see how far you can take it.
Yeah. I think as well. There's players who give out consistent results, and like I think you're one of them. Actually, you give out quite consistent results. Yeah, but then for like, I find myself, it's just I've done in the past with sort of online events and different TCGs. You have that like one really good run, and you like you feel it, and like you
Mm.
go on as far as you can, and you do like a really good run, and they come once in a while, and that could be, as you say, variants or whatever, or just like you're not picking the right deck for events. And then like the stars align, and it's just an amazing feeling when it happens. And like I just want everyone to be able to attempt that. And
Well, I'd
yeah,
like to say, Harlan, a broken clock is correct twice
yeah,
a day. And with you, if you just always stick to Sapphire Steel, eventually it's the
eventually, yeah,
meta.
eventually it will come round again. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
I think with Lorcana, there's a little bit of like, not for me personally, I'm not going to use me as an example, but like you could use like No, I'm Not, like Kendall.
Mm,
I think if you just ride the meta waves out, that man is stuck with Ruby Amethyst. He's stuck by its side, and it's done nothing but favors for him to just stick with that. And
mm.
he's learned how to play it against discard. He's learned how to play it in the mirror. Like he's just rided the meta waves out. And I think there's a lot of benefits to being that sort of player as well. But then again, he's picked a better deck for it, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Yeah.
also, like, it very could have easily gone the other way. And if different cards came out for Sapphire Steel and worse cards came
Mm.
out for Red Purple, then I think with both of your mindsets, you could have been in No I'm Not's position, and No I'm Not could be in your position where his favourite deck just wasn't always the right pick for the meta, which obviously
Mm.
is survivor's bias, because maybe if Red Purple didn't keep being good enough, he wouldn't have stuck with it, right? Like, I'm not saying he's a player that would only ever stick to Red Purple, because maybe he doesn't want to be shoehorned into that. But it's always contextual, right? And if you've just found something that works and it keeps working for you, why get
Yeah.
rid of it?
Yeah.
For me, I'm
I'm.
too ADHD. I want to try something new each time. I get bored very, very quickly. Uh,
I mean, that's good. And like I'm. I don't know. Maybe I'm not ADHD, and I'm whatever the opposite of ADHD is. But I find if I don't enjoy the deck, or I don't enjoy what I'm doing, and there's a bit of comfort that comes with that, I just don't want to practice it. Like I've been trying
mm,
like a different TCG out, like just in the off season. I've been trying One Piece, and I've been trying all the decks. I'm like, I generally don't enjoy this. I can't see myself playing X amount of hours a day to learn it. And it was the same with Lorcana. It was like I'd pick up Steel Song for a day and go, I don't enjoy setting up Ariel and making her sing. Like I don't enjoy bottom decking 4 useful cards and never finding a song. So like I just didn't want to learn it. And the same was like bouncing. Like I enjoy Ruby Amethyst until I have to do a mirror, and then I want to do anything else besides a Ruby Amethyst mirror. So yeah, I think there's that as well. Like I know a lot of good players that like stick to the deck they like just because they know what they're doing with it as well.
mm.
So yeah, I think everyone's got their tools for TCGs, and that's what makes them so amazing. Like we're basically just chess with tons of variables, and that's what
Yeah.
I really like about this game.
Chess
Like
mixed with poker, my favourite analogy.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
there's so
Also,
much to these
Podkana's
games.
favourite analogy, which I may have originally stolen it from them. I don't remember now, it's been so long. But for a long time, whenever I go, I meet someone new or I go on a date with someone and they ask me, what do you do? I'm like, Lorcana. And they're like, what's that? Well, it's chess with poker. I don't think it always helps make more sense.
It's
But if they aren't aware of any other card games, I think that's the most abstract way to describe it.
it's so hard I found in the UK to explain what you do because it's like in the US they're like, oh what, like Magic? I'm like, because everyone seems to know what
Yeah.
Magic is in the US, but over here they're like, I don't even think people outside the UK will know the game Top Trumps, like
Oh
that
yeah,
like,
I've had
yeah.
someone go, oh, like top trumps before.
Yeah,
Yeah, in the
and
UK.
it's like no, or they think you're like a gambler, and they're like, "You don't gamble, do you?" I'm like, "No, I'm not." Well, I am gambling in a weird way, but it's
Well,
like,
I had a date once think I was a professional poker player, and then a couple months after, I showed them pictures of the event, and they were like, "Oh, that's not poker." I'm like, I said I played cards.
did you not
Well, I
write
think
that out? I
I
mean,
could see the disappointment in their eyes and like the passion fade because they
like a
thought it was a
poker
lot
player is
cooler.
cool, and yeah, a
Yeah.
poker player is cool, and then you show them Lorcan. I've tried to show people Lorcana cards, and I don't know. It kind of goes. It's better than showing them the One Piece cards or like a
Yeah.
Yu-Gi-Oh card. But
Like I like
like,
being the best at like telling my Disney princesses what to do, you know?
yeah,
That's
yeah,
the kind of vibe I'm going for. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I think the theming of a card game matters a little bit to me. Like it needs to have good looking art, it needs to have some characters I like. Like I think I've struggled in games where I wasn't already attached to the characters, but it's also not the most important thing. Like for me, the most important thing is gameplay mechanics. I mean, just this weekend, someone was asking me why I liked Lorcana, and I said it was mainly because of the inking mechanics, because of how much
mm,
depth it added to the opportunity cost of, should I use a card as a resource now or save it to play later for its own, card effect value. And I was saying this with like Steve Warner next to me, right? Like one of the uh, Disney Lorcana designers. And but then I finished it with maybe except for Digimon the card game's resource system with memory. When he turns to me and says that Ryan Miller, one of the other designers, was the guy who designed that card game resource system. So it
oh,
turns out both of my favorite card game resource systems are from the same guy. So if I had known that, I would have instantly known that I would have loved Lorcana because I think they're just ingenious in how they challenge like the traditional concepts of what is the value of a card and how do you spend it and what does it cost and how do you transfer those resources. It's just so cool. I think the
yeah.
design of Lorcana is the way it's really easy to pick up and easy to understand, but incredibly difficult to master. And I don't think anyone's come close to mastering yet. It means that this game has a lot of longevity, especially competitively.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm probably the opposite way of art. Like, I've got like no interest at all in Disney. I mean, like, I very much appreciate the art, and like, there's sometimes a card comes out. I think that looks really cool. Like, I think Diablo looks really cool. And there's like loads of cards like that. I'm like, oh, I really like that art. But it literally, I remember once telling someone at a store champs, I said, these cards could all just be blank white and have the numbers on it, and I would just find it the same. And they were just like, oh, you're very fun, aren't you? I'm like, I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry, but just from and because I say I play One Piece and I played Pokemon before, but like I'm not particularly big into those IPs either. But I just really respect a good game, and the inking system is amazing because like as you say, there's so much like, do I want to use this as a card or as a resource? Like inking a Tamatoa, it's like this is an insanely powerful card, but I'm putting it in an inkwell. It just feels mad. But what I really enjoy is if you've ever played Pokemon, and I assume Magic's the same, you have to fill your deck with like land cards or energy
Yeah.
cards, and it's just this clunkiness of like the resources also put in there, and then you don't sometimes draw the resource. But now all cards can basically be resource besides the uninkables, and I think that's a really good way to do it because like you'll see deck lists and it'll be like 20 energy cards and then the deck, and then you shuffle it and you draw, they're just so dull to draw. But having it
There's
built
so
like
much
this,
variance in that. Like, obviously, we
yeah,
have the variance of inkables to uninkables, but you can change that in the deck builder, and at least there's a really cool upside, which is uninkable cards tend to be stronger, and there's even ways we interact with that mechanic, like ways to ink uninkables. Um, but just drawing a basic land, that's not interesting. You draw
no,
5 lands, like, I lose, cool, GG, go next. Like,
yeah,
it's not fun gameplay. And I think also the mulligan system, I think rather than a lot of games try to balance the mulligan by being like, oh, how do we add a cost to it? Like Magic has it where every time you mulligan, you lose a card. How do we make a cost to it? But I think Lorcana's chosen a much better angle where it's going, how do we balance the game around a stronger mulligan? Because a
mm,
stronger mulligan isn't, for me, inherently better than a weak mulligan. Because while it does raise the power level of the format inherently, making certain decks like Bucky discard way too consistent, it also means the amount of unplayable games you have is very, very, very minimal,
mm,
which just lets you have more fun overall. Because I think every time you hit a game where you can't play at all, especially in high stakes situations, it just sucks. I mean, my LCQ, the ways I got knocked out was a bit of that this weekend, but it happens way less than in other card games.
yeah, yeah. So you'll still have them games where like it bricks or however you want to describe it, that your deck doesn't do what you want it to do.
Hmm.
But like you can use the bad examples of like Bucky or Diablo Shift of like, oh, they get to do that a lot more efficiently. They do. But of course, I'm going to also use the example of Sapphire Steel ramp decks because you're required to get that ramp early, like a Quill or a
Hmm.
Mickey Mouse, or and the ability to find that easier by giving a very gracious mulligan allows this deck to survive. If this deck had a mulligan, say like any other one where it's like you either keep the
Just
hand,
mull
shuffle it back,
7. Yeah.
yeah, just mull full 7. You couldn't do these decks. Like half of these decks wouldn't exist. Like it just,
Or
I
at
think
least they
Ruby
wouldn't
Amethyst would
be able to be built in the fun, interesting ways they are now. They'd have to be built purely for consistency. Whereas now, less of the deck space is taken up by consistency because so much of it is done by the mulligan itself, which I think makes for more interesting and dynamic gameplay.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's a really it's what brought me to the game. Like I say, I didn't particularly. I'm trying to watch Disney movies.
Yeah.
Artifacts
What have you watched
messaged
so
me.
far? Because I know at the
Well,
start of the year you hadn't watched any, pretty much.
I've watched Treasure Planet, and Artifacts
Good one.
tells me to watch The Lion King quite
Yeah.
continuously. He tells me to watch that one. Um, is Wicked Disney? I'm saying that on Saturday.
I don't know, but I don't.
No,
Wicked's like a play, isn't it?
it's like live action. Oh, only the cartoons. I don't know. It just feels weird to be like a guy in his mid-20s alone watching Disney movies. Like, it just doesn't feel right, you know? Like I
No,
don't
no,
know.
you gotta embrace it. You gotta embrace it. We're
I,
Disney Lorcana card game players.
I tried Hercules and I got so far in, but like I finished my snacks and I was like, I want to go play Lorcana or something right now. This is
Yeah.
not right. But yeah, I
Um.
probably should try more.
I think there's a lot of movies that stand on their own. Even watching them for the first time as an adult. Like I watched Treasure Planet for the first time as an adult, and I really enjoyed it, and that's on its
Mm,
own. Certain other movies, maybe I wouldn't enjoy it without the nostalgia. Like I don't know how much I love Aladdin is built off nostalgia, and the music and how much of it is the story itself. I think it's a really good intersection, right? Like the fact that you've come in here knowing no Disney because you really enjoy the mechanics and the
mm.
competitiveness of it, and then it's actually getting you to watch some Disney things shows, at least from Disney's perspective, the power of Lorcana is like a cross-brand
Yeah,
intersection.
it's like I saw
Uh,
on Twitter. It was like Yuzan and like a group like Kawa like went to Disneyland and like hanged out there and like they got you to do that. Like that's awesome.
yeah.
A
Oh
lot of
yeah. I
people
don't think
there.
I would have ever paid to go to Disneyland if I
No,
wasn't already there for a card game, just because it's
no,
very expensive. And they got us like, thank you, Fanfinity, Ravensburger, whoever it was, but got us discounted tickets at the park. I mean, that was
oh
great.
wow.
Really helpful.
Oh cool. Yeah, like I say, no other card game has that. Like that level of IP, and I think that's really
Mm.
great for just
Oh, except
people who
like Pokemon. Pokemon is a really strong IP.
I guess Pokemon and a few maybe One Piece, but like a few of the newer ones that try to start, like Flesh and Blood, I always use an example. If you've ever played that game, it's a
Mm.
really good game, but it's just no one cares that much about goblins and little things like that. Like it has
Yeah,
no
just like classic
Elsa's.
Tolkien
Yeah, it has no
fantasy.
like Elsa's and like princesses and stuff. So like I remember when the first round of store champs came around, like people were just interested because they saw Stitch from Lilo and Stitch, but like they didn't know what
Yeah.
the game was. They just thought this was some really cool art. I want to be a part of this somehow. So yeah, I think this
Which is
game has
also the
so much
only
lifespan.
reason tournament players can really even do this as a job right now, is because the second-hand collectors market are
Yeah,
single-handedly funding the lifestyles of people being able to play tournaments, sell cards, afford the next tournament.
yeah,
Which I think for a lot of people, they might be a bit cynical about that and be like, oh, you guys aren't really fans of the game, you're just doing it for money. But for me, I don't have the expendable income to go to these events without having that as an option, so it's actually made the game much more accessible for me. Because I don't have thousands of pounds laying around to buy decks, buy flights, and not expect to see a return. So the fact that if I put the effort in and I can be good enough and strong enough to try and top cut these events and make enough money to go to the next event, it's given me amazing life experiences that have probably made this past year the best of life best year I've had so far in my life. I mean, every month or two I get to fly out, hang out with friends in
mm,
another country, try new food, meet new people, meet viewers, fans. It's just been incredible, been magical, you could say,
yeah,
with
yeah.
Disney branding. Yeah.
No, you're exactly right. Like, to afford this, you do have to be part of that second-hand market, and sometimes as well, if you were just to do the European events, like, and keep it fairly cheap. Like, I am very cheap. Like, I'm a
Mm.
very cheap person. I took the
I mean,
coach
you had
from
the
London.
coach planned back for the same day, even though the flight
I,
was the
t-
same cost.
I took a 10-hour coach from London to Paris. It was like I slept on the coach. For anyone just listening to this, I did the open close brackets there. Like Yeah, I just try and keep it cheap because then it's like you only need to do relatively well at one of these and it covers the
Mm.
cost for everything. And then if you do well at two of these, like you've got a little bit more money or whatever. But yeah, I don't have an expensive, like I don't earn that much money, but it's just been amazing for me to be like, oh, every month or so I get to fly out to it. I've been to a different country like seven or I think like 6 or 7 countries this year. And then even like at home, I really enjoyed the store champs events. Like with my local players, we get to go at least for the first two. It's sort of dying down a
Mm.
bit now.
Like got to travel
Um,
around together, like go to new cities.
I
Yeah.
was going like all over like the sort of this part of England where I am, and it was amazing. And we got like loads of fun like road trips, and then we got to get like food along the way. I just generally cherish those moments. But I don't know, they did little changes there with the top eight thing, and it's sort of not been really worthwhile for a lot of players to go.
Which I think
Um,
is a good change. It's better that people like us aren't roving
yeah,
around in our bands of competitive players, stealing all the promos.
no, I think it's fine how they've done it, and I'd like to hear the direction they want the store champs. Like, are they that competitive, or are they just a showcase and go and get your card and it'll be fun? But
I think
I think it's more on
it's got to be it's either got to be the pinnacle for casual players or the stepping stones for players
yeah.
wanting to get into competitive. That's like the sweet spot they have to hit.
It'd be really nice for them to do a statement of like officially is this is what this is. This is
Yeah,
why
this
we
is like
do it.
I think maybe they aren't doing it because they want to leave it like open to interpretation, so they still have
Yeah.
flexibility on like what their vision of it is.
I think also it's worth noting like so if you're in the US, I see they have like 1K, 2K like winner case events constantly. In the UK, it's not particularly that frequent those events pop up, and if they do, it's like one or two shops in London. So
Yeah.
outside the store champs, we pretty much didn't have any other like events to go to. We seem to get this Axion event every year, but then they put it on the same day. They've done it twice now, where they put it on the same day as like another big Lorcana event. So it's like I can't even attend that. I
I
really
just
like
can't
other.
attend it because train prices in this country are too expensive. Remember how at the start of the podcast I said life and Lorcana? This is the life bit. I don't care if this is political. Trains are too damn expensive in this country.
Yeah,
Why is it more expensive for me to go to Birmingham, the other side of the country, than it is for me to fly to Italy?
it was exactly what I think Birmingham was my most expensive trip this year, and even that I tried to keep cheap, but it wasn't. But yeah, it was more. It was like I think closer to 100 to get from here to Birmingham, and
Yeah.
then like from here to
And then
Paris
the
was not that
NEC
much.
hotels are expensive. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you're having to
Crazy.
book like a mile away from the actual venue,
And it's
and
not even a justifiable holiday. Like,
no.
oh, I went to Birmingham this weekend. Real exciting, mate. Well done.
That was I had like some of the players come up to me that like visited here, and they were like, so what do we do because we got knocked out and we just want to like make this a holiday? I was like, probably not go to Birmingham.
Probably
Like,
find the train station and go a couple towns out, you know?
I saw some go to like I think it was like Bristol or like London or whatever. I was like, yeah, just please get out of Birmingham. Like it's not very nice, and we're like on the outskirts, so you can actually leave here.
On the train
But
to
yeah.
Birmingham, I met a London actor that also part-timed as a semi-pro disc golf player. They did
Oh,
ask to subscribe to my YouTube, so if you're randomly watching, hello. But it was yeah, just I mean I think it's a cool example of traveling and meeting new people. I mean we met new people in Seattle. That was pretty fun. It's just one of the best parts of this event. I think the Birmingham venue specifically was the worst one for me because you're just
yeah, I
in a
thought that was.
convention center. You don't get to walk around the city, try the local food. In Birmingham's case, actually, I know I
Yeah,
really like the food in Birmingham, so I'm not going to be mean to it. But we didn't even get to do that because you're just trying chain restaurants that are marked up 3 times in a convention center. Like, and
that was the worst
if
because
you've
like
ever been to a convention in the UK, you've probably already been to the NEC before. I had once for UK Games Expo for a Digimon tournament in 2022, so it wasn't like I was exploring anything new. It was just
yeah.
yeah. Whereas like for example, Bologna was probably the best one so far in terms of location because you're like a couple hours trip from a bunch of really cool cities in Italy, and Bologna itself was a pretty nice city to walk around. Although the weather was a problem for a lot of people, I enjoyed the hot weather. I'm sure most did not.
The Birmingham one was crazy because we had like people because I'd basically always complain about European food because
Hmm.
I'm so British cored. I'm British
Yeah,
pilled at
this
this
guy's
point.
not adventurous enough. But we've been slowly
No.
cracking him out of his shell. I've got him to try a few new things in Seattle when it was
Uh,
just me, him, and Sky.
Oh yeah, yeah. I didn't know how to eat half of the food, but like when they came to Birmingham, that was like, oh, they were like, what do we try? What's like a British cuisine? And I was like, try Weatherspoons. But like, if you actually know, like, anyone who's in the UK, like, Weatherspoons isn't actually good food, but it's cheap, and like, we just love a bargain. We love things that are cheap. But
Yeah, it's
because
just
it was
like
in the
British
venue,
culture.
yeah, but because it was in the
Yeah.
venue, it was like 3 times the price. So it was terrible
So it
food, and
wasn't
it cost.
even Weatherspoons.
No.
Yeah, it's supposed to be cheap, terrible food that you maybe eat before a night out. But in this case, it was very expensive and it was still horrible. So what was the
Yeah.
point?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, all the venue's been pretty nice. I did like Seattle because, as I say, I'm not very like adventurous with food, and their like food bit was just like Doritos and like Skittles and stuff. So I was just like
Wait,
eating
did you
them the
not
whole
did you
time.
not go to like the market on the lunch break?
I went and I got like a can of energy drink, and then I tipped like the person selling me the energy drink, because I still don't understand American tipping culture. And then I
Yeah, no,
came out and
I just
Sky
kind of
was
tipped
like,
for everything.
yeah, I always did 20%, and Sky was like, nah,
Yeah.
you don't have to tip for that. I was like, what do you mean? I don't know what the
I'm
rules
pretty
are here.
sure I tipped like a self-service boba tea kiosk before. Like,
Oh yeah, we went to get boba tea, and I just got an
yeah.
Earl Grey. I didn't try any, but
No, no. Well,
yeah,
next time you'll be a bit more adventurous next year. We'll slowly crack you out of your shell.
yeah. I mean, we went to get it was the Vietnamese dish, and I had no
Yeah,
idea what I was eating, like or
it
how
was
to
good,
eat it. It was good, yeah.
tasty. Yeah,
It
yeah.
was very
I
different.
think I think you had like bun bo hue, like the noodles and meat.
I couldn't tell you. But like this is the cool thing of, if I wasn't playing these games and doing that, I would literally be sat at home playing World of Warcraft or like Warzone, or like,
Yeah,
I'd just be, I'd be rotting away in this chair. But because I play these games, like, it gives me a reason to go out and do these things, and that's why I'm so passionate about it. And when we say things like we want the format to be better, or we want these things to be better, we're not like trying to be rude. We're saying we
no,
want this to be the best thing, so people will keep doing it and people will keep enjoying it.
yeah. We've done a lot of complaining. I've done a lot of complaining today, but it's only because of how passionate we are about the game and how much
Yeah.
we want it to be the best it can be. Because this game's given us some amazing experiences.
Yeah.
As you can tell from these stories we were telling. One story of which I'd like to talk about is on the lunch break, which was this was just not like a fundamental judging problem, but at the PPG event on the Friday, a judge had told me there was a lunch break at a certain time. There was not a lunch break that day. So me and Jan, Moyen, are stuck in a Jimmy John's waiting for our order while seeing our pairings go live. So
Did you have
after,
to run
after
back?
so yeah, I get my sandwich. I'm like, mate, sorry, Jan, but I'm gonna run ahead, and I sprint back to the venue, sprint up the stairs because I didn't know there was an elevator at the time. So I'm sprinting up the escalator just to get to my table in time. And I get there, and I'm just going, just like huffing and panting the entire way.
Uh, yeah, I mean, we wouldn't be like saying these things. Like, you don't complain about something you don't like. Like, we would have just walked away from the game and not
Yeah,
played it. But because we love it so much, we want it to be the best. So everything we said just comes from love, really,
and we made a
rather
lot of
than,
content in the game, so we are very emotionally invested into it. Like
yes,
we've spent a lot of hours thinking, talking, playing this game,
yeah.
uh,
Y-
more so
y-
than most people.
You say about the lunch breaks though, like they're very slapdash with them. It's like sometimes they'll give you a lunch break. I remember, I think Lil, they cut it. Um,
Yeah.
in one of them they did, and then ever since then I've always just been scared that they're just gonna cut them. So I like never go too far from the venue, which is, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think obviously if they're running out of time, they have to cut something.
Mm,
It just sucks for people like me who don't tend to play very fast decks, so I never
yeah.
really get time to relax and eat if there's no lunch break. But I guess I'm on the whole intermittent fasting during tournaments and just drinking water anyway, so it's mostly fine.
It's
Uh,
like hard
yeah,
at these events because, like, I think no matter how you organize it, like, here's a lunch break, and then the queue to get any food is about a mile long, and there's no
yeah,
real way you can change that. That's just gonna be because now 2,000 people want to get food, and yes, not much you can do about that. But yeah.
yeah. But to circle back to our main topics, which I think we left
Oh
the
wow.
schedule of about 2.5 minutes into the podcast,
I
um,
didn't even know.
about an hour ago. Yeah, 2024 Lorcana, competitive Lorcana retrospective. How we feeling?
Oh wow. I didn't even. It's been so long. I did not
Yeah,
know that was the main topic. Um, Yeah, I mean, it's for me, it's been amazing. I've been around TCGs like most of my life, and just to get like some sort of foot in the door and sort of a name and stuff like that has been awesome. As I said, I didn't particularly enjoy my performances at DLCs, and I didn't enjoy the formats too much, but we seemed to pick it up at the end. And then also performance outside of, I guess I'm gonna call it like third party Lorcana or whatever. You know what I mean? Like not events run by Disney. We've had some really good times online, and we've done like some really good winner boxes and winner cases and had really good fun. I remember the first like video I was part of. I went to one with Villain and we made cut in some store in London, and
Mm.
this was before he was even casting or anything like that. And he was like, "Oh, do you want to jump in this video?" I was like, "Oh, that's awesome, man." It's just been really great. Yeah, and I know I'm very fortunate and very grateful for the position I'm in. Like I'm getting a lot more of the experience than others are. And that's why I try and like just be as friendly as I can and like respond to as many DMs and stuff like that.
I'd
And
just like
yeah,
to say something. But even though we were friends for a long time, I never put you in a video. But now that you qualified for Continentals, you have enough clout to be on my
I've
channel.
earned the clout, have I?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was wondering when it was coming up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So, the friendship's like here, but like the clout's like up there
oh,
now.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
There
yeah.
we go. I can get the invite to the ball out. It's just behind me.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Wait, no, come on, do it.
Do you want me to
Thumbnail.
get it? I think it's in this. I'm
Yeah,
trying to
get it out.
part with
Have
it.
you not? I'm surprised you haven't sold it yet.
I would never sell it.
Really?
Wink. Yeah, no, I will.
Wink.
Yeah.
Oh,
Here we
look at
go.
that beauty. Come on, get a close shot, money shot.
No, I'm not getting a money shot of it. No, we probably will. I was probably going to do it at
Yeah.
the venue, but I'll admit they were quite a bit stricter at this venue than they were at previous ones, and I'm assuming it's because they were on Disneyland, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Because they usually like you're not supposed to do that, and the judges would be like, "Can you not do that?" and then walk away.
Yeah.
But they were like generally, "No, don't do that. Like, can you if you are do it outside the premises,"
Right.
which was
Yeah,
kind of a
yeah.
bit of a change up. Which I think it was basically probably they just had to be on their best behavior,
Hmm.
was just all it was, and it was like understandable. Like no one was getting in a fuss about it. Like that was what was supposed to happen everywhere else anyway.
It's
Um,
completely fair because it's not like it's a privilege to be there. It's not a
yeah,
market. It
I
doesn't have.
think
Yeah.
it seems like Ravensburger. This is like their test run of
Ravensburger.
Ravensburg, sorry. This is like their test run of like doing a good job because they could have
Hmm.
easily thrown this event. Like people could have messed up somehow. You know what sometimes people are like. Like you just players as well. They could have made a mess for like people who were paying to go to that venue or something like that, and or even just Disneyland in general. So I think they were on very good behavior, but it seemed to go amazingly. Like they even got a live performance from a French Moana. I don't know if you saw that at one point.
No, but I was there for that. It was really cool,
Yeah.
actually. I took a short little video to send to my sibling who loves Moana.
Oh, yeah, I came up the stairs because I think I was like done with my Swiss rounds, and then I was like, "This is Moana in French." I was like, "This is really." Cool. And you get like pictures with her, and I think they maybe needed a bit more stuff of that because I saw there was like families with kids and stuff. So like,
Hmm.
I didn't think those sorts of groups would want to go to this event because it seemed super serious, but they were and they were enjoying it. So maybe a bit more of the.
I
And
think this one was a bit better for the average player because there was actually a spectator experience and not like in
mm,
Bochum where we had a projector on a white wall with minimal
yeah.
sound and glass windows shining light fading the screen. So the
It,
fact that they now have an AV technician to set up all the visuals and audio is great.
Yeah, I mean, if you've done
Really
like the,
awesome.
I don't know how it was for Digimon, but for Pokemon, like yeah, you'd have the stage and then some seats so you could like live watch it, and then the TV screen to like
Hmm.
maximize the. I think they should do more of that, like definitely.
Yeah, I think
Um,
so. I think the thing they had at this Continentals, I think they should have at future DLCs to make the whole player side event and be a spectator much more appealing.
mm,
Because I would be more willing to go to an event like this if I ended up not getting a competitor ticket because it sold out, if I was able to watch the games.
yeah,
Like, for example, if they don't have something like that at Worlds, what's the point in going? They'd probably need some other attraction. My guess is maybe they run a DLC at the same time so that you can have like an event that you play for that's competitive while also watching the main event. Yeah, I mean, there's
yeah,
the
I mean,
ways that they get people. I think Lorcana and modern day card games have a really good chance of being a very solid spectator sport, esport. There just has to be a lot of investment into the visualization of it, and also casters have to balance being able to maintain a high level, like competitive and exciting broadcast, while also being able to break down those fundamentals and what happens on screen to a player who might not play any Lorcana or has played
Mm.
very, very little.
I think there's also a good point. I mean, to keep sidetracking from the main point, but I want to make this statement, like, making it more applicable for everyone. Maybe someone who's not very confident they're going to go to day two, they just want to play the game at these events. They did a very good job of outside bracketing, like pricing. So outside the cut, there was pricing, and I went up to Birmingham with like a lot of my locals who, like, they take no offense when I say
Yeah,
that. They're a very casual group. They enjoy Disney more than they enjoy TCGs.
and they're
They just
happy to
wanted
get 30 points.
they were
Yeah.
generally aiming for that, and you know what I mean. I thought that was really well done. Was like, so you were not aiming for the top cut. You would maybe jump for the let it go at best, and then you just wanted those 30 points for the prize tickets. And I thought that was very well done because
Mm.
never have I seen bottom tables like that sort of that busy,
And it
and
keeps the
still have a
competition, you know?
100%
There's like
to keep
high
you playing.
participation. I remember at Lille, they said at round 9, what was it? Something like 80% of tables were still playing.
Which
That
is
is
mad.
unprecedented in any other TCG.
Yeah. At that point, you know, like more than half the room knows they're not going to make the cut on that last round. They know they're not going to go through, so why play? But because they've got this outside pricing, like even myself, anyone, there's no reason to not play. And I've done an
Yeah.
amazing job of that. Like I think that they need to keep that going because then I think you want casual players to come and enjoy this, but I want them to also do the main event. But I also want them to have a reason for it, not just to get farmed by someone who's
Yeah,
got a
exactly.
green steel Bucky deck or something like that. You
Or
know,
whatever
they
the
were,
current meta equivalent is, the unfun meta deck.
yeah, and like it was very good. It was like table 500 below. Everyone was fighting for their own like win and their own reason to play, and I thought that was really well done. Um, but yeah, that was just another sidetrack for that. But going back to the main event, main
Hmm.
point, sorry, about
Retrospective.
yes.
No.
Yeah, no, it's been an amazing year. Like I've always wanted to be this big into TCGs, and it was very nice to get a name out there and meet so many awesome people. And I'm highly excited to do it again next year.
And a couple
So.
terrible ones, like me.
And
Egotistical, you know.
there's maybe some people I haven't particularly enjoyed, but your company is of course someone I've enjoyed. Otherwise, I wouldn't be on here. Yeah. But how about you? How have you enjoyed
No, no,
the start
I'm
of?
on here because I'm bribing you to be on here.
Oh, like
I need your Continentals clout. I've bought it
you
off you.
you needed me holding that invited to the ball for the thumbnail, didn't
Yeah,
you?
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
you
And
needed.
then I'm gonna find an identical host with to replace you at some
I'm
point.
pretty sure you can find a sheepish British guy just to jump in.
Yeah, it wouldn't be too hard actually. Just
No.
anyone who looks like we could hold like a Daniel Radcliffe lookalike competition.
Daniel Radcliffe lookalike. I'll take
Yeah.
that. I'll take Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Why not?
Why
Um,
not?
but yeah, how have you enjoyed the year then?
Oh, it's been great.
Mm.
As I said, like not even just best year in card games, best year in Lorcana, genuinely the best year of my life. I think
Wow.
yeah, I mean, maybe we'll touch on this another time, but before Lorcana, especially last year, mental health, terrible spot for many, many reasons. And meeting people in this community and the people who, especially shout out to people who got me into Lorcana and into this community. I met Specky, Moyen, Kawa, and Brendan through the at like a Marvel Snap event, and then because they were all getting into Lorcana, and I met Phonetic, who got me in because he was from my locals, got me into Lorcana, and then I just made a YouTube video, and everything happened from there. And I've discovered that at first I thought I'd just be doing YouTube and I'd be all right at the card game. Then I started doing well at these tournaments, and I started out with a lot of imposter syndrome, but now I have confidence in myself as a competitive player and don't feel like I'm scamming people when I'm giving them coaching. If I can walk away and say, hey, I feel like I got you value for your money and you're happy and I'm happy, and it's a good day. And yeah, I'm super excited for the future. I think the only thing more I want out of Lorcana than don't have now is obviously to make it to a World Championships and to do casting. Really, really want to do casting. That's a big one for me. So
Yeah,
in
it's good.
2025, let's see what's on the table.
Yeah, it's for sure to have good goals as well, like going into the new year. And yeah, no, I was the same. I even did my little video about sort of mental health, and for a lot of people, I think if you've been around TCGs, like after during COVID lockdown, that hit a lot of us.
Mm.
because local stores shut and a lot of the games took like hits and they all had to move online and some of them didn't really have the environments for it. So when they started up again, it was very nice to jump into Lorcana that was kind of fresh around that time as well. And yeah, it did me the world of good, like just dived into it. And I found Lorcana like the top like competitive community was so tight at that point. Like everyone was a name. We were all
Mm.
playing in like the same discords and like the same online events and like the same leaderboard in the unknown simulator as well, or the unnamed simulator. So like yeah, it was just a really great environment, and a lot of just I love to see it blossom and grow. Like there'll be like a I really liked it one day where it was a big event in America and it was like a player called Lucas, the RP player. He's very young and he was just like came out of nowhere and like now he's like this prodigy star. I love that stuff. Like that
Yeah,
stuff's awesome to
really
hear.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and like it's really nice to see
It was
like
such a
Lamb.
thriving content scene.
Yeah,
To everyone keeps an eye on it. We have people talking about the meta, trying to build new decks, trying to just show people gameplay. I mean, obviously, it's gotten a lot harder, especially for people like me now that everything needs to be physical. But I'm especially once there's an online official client coming out. I think this game is in an amazing position to just hit even more mainstream than it has already, and just take its hold in the TCG market. And
mm,
I think that's really good to see because of how they've improved the game, both mechanics wise compared to other TCGs, but also just in how they handle competitive. And the general culture and community around the game is so positive. I'm so invested in Lorcana's success.
yeah. I mean like the most collective TCG right now is Pokemon. But like let's be honest, like not everyone likes little small fuzzy animals, and that's fine. But like everyone loves
But
Disney. Let's be
real
honest.
men like
The
us, we
real
like our Disney princesses and our bigger
yeah.
animals that talk and don't make sounds when they say their own name.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Except for Bucky. Um,
Oh yeah,
but
he
yeah,
just
like
squeaks. Wait, does he
yeah.
say Bucky? He doesn't say Bucky though. He just
I haven't seen
squeaks
the
like a
movies,
squirrel.
man.
Oh
And
yeah,
on
you
the
haven't.
card, it looks like he talks, so I
Oh,
think
you're just saying
he's
we
like.
don't like Bucky.
I don't like Bucky at
Well, I
all.
like him now that he's nerfed.
Nerfed.
He's
Yeah, I
cute.
can't
He's
call it a
just cute
ban because
now.
it's not really a ban, is it?
No,
It's
he's
more.
nerfed. He's eroded.
Yeah. He might come back in set 7 or whatever. Maybe not the next set. But is set 7 his next set?
That
We
is
might
set
have
seven.
yeah, might have a return of Bucky. But yeah, no, I just think the game's in this amazing spot where it just needs to like grasp it. Like I think yeah, just keep growing online sim, like way more events, and I think they just need more alt arts and stuff like that. Like right now you've got these
Hmm.
enchanteds, and this isn't my personal opinion, but like they've done. I think it was set 4 where they did like all the pastel color alt arts, like enchanteds, and for some people that wasn't it. That they don't like it. So like you've just missed out on an alt art like set of cards. And even in this one, they've done these like schematic pirate themed ones. And if that's not your thing, then you don't care about the alt
Then there's
arts in
another
this game.
style coming later. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I just think they should do more of that. Just keep growing. The game's in an amazing spot, and you can just keep putting in with the parks. Like you can put like Lorcana packs in like all the Disney stores, and that stuff's awesome. I've seen people like a guy at my locals. He took his like Amber Steel deck to Florida and got like all of the artists, they're dressed up and stuff like that, like the
Yeah,
princesses
yeah.
to like sign the cards and got pictures of it. And it's like, yeah, you can. That is like outside of what TCGs usually can do. Like that's amazing. That's really
It's
cool that
really cool. Yeah,
yeah,
you can't go up to a random Pikachu. I guess you could if you wanted to, but you can't
yeah.
go up to a random Pikachu in Las Vegas and be like, "Can you sign my card?" They might charge you $20 for
Yeah.
it.
And it just has that like, and like we didn't go in the end. I can't remember the reason why, but like they had the Moana 2 promo card, and it was like got a bunch of like TCG sweaty nerds. We're all saying, "What time do you want to watch Moana 2 together?"
Yeah.
It's just an amazing game for that. Like it's
Yeah,
just,
because the cross promotion of it is like, sure, you're going there to pick up a card, and maybe you wouldn't have gone otherwise, but you're
yeah,
still going, and you're at
yeah.
least
Like
going with mates to make it a fun time and worth your while of getting the ticket.
we're gonna go have a fun time, and it's like we could have went. Do you want to just go pick up the card and leave? But no, the idea was that we would go watch the entire
The
film.
gang's watching Moana, yeah,
Yeah,
and then
and
while you're watching it, you can be like, oh, there's the 5/6 rush card, you
oh,
know.
that was the worst when I tried to watch Hercules, and I was like, I saw Hades, and I was like, I'm really trying to make him work in my deck right now, And it was like all I could think about was stuff like that. But
No, you're more
no,
emotionally invested in that card because he's a great character.
Yeah.
Great villain.
I think it kind of helps sometimes to know like which ones are from which. Like I'm always like, why is this character not a hero? Because you know what I mean. I'm like, I want to use
That doesn't
like a
explain
bow.
why Morph isn't a pirate.
Is, oh yeah, is
You've
he not
watched
an
Treasure
ally?
Pirate now. Morph should be a pirate, but he's not.
Is he one of like the shipmates or just like the ship pet or
Yeah, I
something?
think so. But he's still
Yeah.
on the pirate ship and lived on the pirate ship,
Yeah, I
right?
mean maybe it's
Oh, he should be
balanced.
a pirate.
Th- th- That was my thought of like pretty much most of the characters in this game are heroes. Like I'd call Tinkerbell a hero. Like
Yeah,
why is she not? You know?
right. I think we should wrap up though, because we're drifting off our
Yes.
conclusion topic.
Oh, we
But
got a
yeah,
conclusion
next year.
topic.
So we've done the retrospective. Next year, looking forward to it. I hope 2 game format stays, but it gets some adjustments. And I predict that we have a world championship where all 4 regions sync up. That's my prediction for next year, and I'm really looking forward to it because I think having it will truly feel like a world championship when we have at least 4 of the main regions. I don't think there's any announcements for Latin America or Africa Lorcana sales, but
No.
at least we're hitting the majority of the world, right? And New
That would
Zealand's not left out this time, as we are often left out on maps.
yeah,
R
I mean
slash
that
maps without New Zealand. Great subreddit.
you could do it in the is there a subreddit for that?
Yeah, the Risk map doesn't have New Zealand on it, and then a bunch of other maps
Oh
copied the Risk map, so now tons of maps don't have New Zealand on it.
yeah, I think I've seen that. There's like those like subreddits like maps without Sweden or like Norway or something like that, and they're
Yeah,
always
the
just missing
worst
it.
one is when they include like Hawaii, right, which is in the middle of the ocean, and so you can see Australia to Hawaii, so you include all of that ocean, but they just don't draw New Zealand on. That's the most egregious.
Yeah.
They're censoring us, saying we
I
don't
mean,
exist.
to do the regions would be amazing if they could. They might have done the research on if they did Latin. I don't know how like available the cards
I
are
think
in
it's
Latin
it's hard
America.
to distribute to that region.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
So
if they
they're
could,
mainly doing it to regions where they have pre-established both card distribution because they have to produce it in that region, right? It's inefficient to
mm,
ship it all over the world, and it needs to have pre-existing like TOs that can run robust DLCs for the first season. So, like
yeah,
as Australia, we've just seen it announced in TAC Games. We don't have information on the Asian DLCs yet, but I mean, there's very strong card game people there. There's always lots of tournaments in Singapore, Korea, China, Japan.
mm, yeah. You get a lot of good Australian Pokemon players that get to take advantage of like the Asian events as well because you're so close to it. But
Like we
yeah,
do
I
with
don't.
EUNA. Oh, I want to say shout out to the Filipino community. This is a story I heard from Moyen. They have a strong Lorcana player base there. They have to order in all their cards from Europe and America. And what they do for their set champs is they order set champs cards other people have won and then hold their own set champs.
Oh,
It's so
that's
nice.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that just shows you how much they want to like have actual product. Like Disney should definitely, or whoever it is, needs to help them out.
Right. Which I
If
think
they
is
can.
another sad thing about the simulator going away, because we have all these communities of Lorcana that were built around the online simulator that didn't have access to the cards, but are now having to
Mm.
struggle to play without the game being out in their region yet.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's loads of amazing players as well. They're not just locked by their region and lack of like product, but there was a lot of players who were just like time restrained. Maybe they were a parent, and the only
Yeah.
time they could have was like playing whilst they got their kid in their arm, and they were like one of the best players online, and you kind of don't see them as much anymore. So it would just be amazing to get an online environment, especially in this day and age. But I'm sure it's coming. The more we say it, I'm sure it'll come along.
I'm sure it's coming, but I'm pessimistic about when it's coming. My prediction
Mm.
is we'll be lucky if it's 2026.
Oh wow, that is it.
Yeah. Because I don't think they would have started production on it until after Lorcana got popular.
Yeah, it could be a
Because
cool.
initially, I think Ravensburger, because you heard about like how originally the DLCs were only going to sell for 512 player caps, right? So the fact
Mm.
that Lorcana's popularity has been so explosive to 2,000 player caps, selling out pretty much instantly, I think that goes to show that any production on an online client would not have been pre-planned with the release of the physical game. They would have only started it sometime this year.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose so. It'd just be
And
nice.
these things take like 2 to 3 years to produce.
Yeah. Guess it'll come when it comes, isn't it?
But hopefully, if we're lucky, early 2026, I'd say.
Yeah. The streaming environment could be thriving, and you could have loads of stars
Amazing.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah, be
I mean,
amazing.
I could be a relevant YouTuber again, and
You're
to
always relevant.
grasp a straw at that. And no,
We
I'm not. I haven't.
we
My
did
last video was uploaded in September.
when we did Seattle though. Like everyone knew who you were. Everyone wanted to say hello.
Yeah, that was really nice actually, because I hadn't met any of the American fans yet.
There was one person who got you and someone else to sign something, and then they went, "Could you sign it as well? I don't know who you are, but like I think they was like, can you sign it, and then I'll figure out who you are afterwards." Because my fans tend to be Blue Steel players, and we're a very much an outcast group of people.
Yeah.
You know, we know what we're like. So yeah, but it's always sweet whenever someone says hello to me. Like it's just mad to go from like no one paying attention to you to now like people want to say hello and stuff. Like it's just so heartwarming.
Oh, it's amazing, but it's also like a really odd feeling.
Mm.
Because I don't think there's many other situations in life where you meet someone in person and they know much more about you than you know about them. So I think it's
Yeah.
really sweet when people go about it the right way and they're like, "Hey, my name's this. I know you from this. It's nice to meet you. Can we get a picture? Can we do, whatever? Can you sign this?" That's great. I'm going to say this now so people don't do it in the future. I don't like when you stare at me and just like for a while and then just out of the blue start talking to me as if you know me. I would like to be
Oh
introduced
wow.
first. I'd like to find out who you are. And also, my other nitpick is Seattle, you didn't do this. Well done. Every other DLC in Europe, at least one person is asked to shake my hand in the bathroom.
Yeah, that one's mad. That one's
Yeah.
mad. I haven't had
Because,
the
come on, I'm washing my hands here. I don't want to shake no one's hand. What is
I've had that
this?
nod whilst you're like in there, like you're that guy, aren't
Yeah,
you? I'm like,
like you're
yeah.
washing your hands, you see each other in the mirror. So I'm not complaining about fan interactions, but just as long as you're not like fist bumping me at the urinal, we're good.
Yeah. I've had the ones I don't know if I'm that like identifiable, but like they'll stare for a bit and then they'll come say hello, and like I will try and always go say hello to them first because like I get it,
Mm.
like I'd be kind of nervous to like say hello to anyone that I'd wanted to say hello to.
No, my problem is if someone's staring at me, and they're acting as if they know me. I get scared that I've met them before and that I just don't remember who they are because I'm really bad with remembering people, especially
Mm.
remembering names. So I just think that like I end up thinking that like I'm an awful person for not remembering you when often it's just that they know me from YouTube and I've never met them.
Yeah, that's very true. But yeah, all those experiences though, still as much as we say anything about just amazing, but
Oh yeah, like they're never bad experiences. They're just
mm.
funny. Like I'm not gonna, it's not gonna prevent me from sleeping at night because someone shook my hand in my toilet. But it does give me a lot of laughs when I retell it to friends back home.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
All right, well, I think that's we can rate that's a banger. That's a banger for the first Alphos and Sweet podcast. Anyway,
Yeah.
thank you for joining us for the first podcast, and hopefully this will continue into the future and the 2025 Lorcana season. It's been me, Alphos, and HarlanSweete, two competitive Lorcana players that have also become great mates over the year, and,
Mm.
well, I've been talking for too long.
We owe it to Lorcana. But yeah, okay. Bye guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.